I cannot believe that it's appropriate in a small island of Jersey, 9x5, to have, we estimated, 900 vacant homes and not have a solution to how we resolve that.
Welcome to Housing Crisis Averted, a special mini-series from Bailiwick Podcasts. Next week, Housing Minister Sam Mezek will face a panel of property professionals, housing providers and a political rival in a Question Time style event hosted by All Island Media. Together, they'll be asking, is Jersey still in the grip of a housing crisis, and what needs to happen to fix it? I'm Fiona Potigny, editor of Bailiwick Express, and I'll be chairing the live panel discussion at the Pom Door next Wednesday. In the lead-up, I've been speaking to each of our contributors about what they believe is working, what isn't, and what urgently needs to change. In this episode, I'm joined by former Housing Minister David Warr. I put 5 quick-fire questions to him, starting with this. Is housing crisis the right way to define Jersey's housing situation right now, in your view, or do you think we're on track for crisis averted?
Well, I think the word crisis, as I say, is a very strong term, and I'm sure people have views about that. But what has happened is it's been quite a dynamic change in the housing crisis, if you want to use that term. It's when I took over, it was zero interest rates. People who had money didn't have anywhere to put that money, and they saw investing in a home or investing in a house as a way to keep the value of that saving up. The restrictions were not limited, were very unlimited, as it were. That drove house prices up. That made average person on the street absolutely unable to afford the purchase of a new home. And I think what I would describe as the commodification of housing, became very apparent that was happening.
What's one issue or potential policy initiative that hasn't had the airtime it deserves when we talk about housing?
Well, I would like to argue about vacant homes, and I appreciate the current housing minister has abandoned that project, but I do think it's a serious long-term issue, and the problem is it's very easy to drop because there's no apparent benefit in a political term to doing that work. However, I cannot believe that it's appropriate in a small island of Jersey, 9x5, to have, we estimated, 900 vacant homes and not have a solution to how we resolve that. It's a complex issue because it's not a thing where you just shove a tax out. There are all sorts of reasons why homes are vacant, and that was the piece of work that we were doing and really got engaged with the public. And they were, the public were absolutely keen on that policy, that work being done. But as I say, it's very easy to knock that policy because you turn around and go, well, point at some houses that you've managed to get back into the realm of people living in them. And that's a really tough gig. And actually what I would say is, though, sometimes the unintended consequences, what we did see was homes that were vacant at one time suddenly became habitable or being used. So we couldn't measure them as vacant anymore, but maybe the sheer fact that we were going out there and saying something caused people to take action.
Some of the schemes you set in motion as minister, so like the empty homes work, for example, were paused or sidelined with the change in government. So do you think that was a mistake?
Well, I do think it's a mistake, and I think it's not so much that it wasn't, as I said, it's about results. We published 2 reports on it. The first one was trying to identify what the issue was, and then the second thing was what kind of actions we might take. And as I say, if I was still there today, I think we would be quietly sorting out policies to get these homes back into the housing stock. Bear in mind that 900 homes is kind of, I don't quite say it's an annual supply of homes, but that's effectively 1 year's worth of not having to build homes on green fields, and also with no planning restrictions causing delays and things like that. It really is an obvious win, but it takes time, and basically no one's done the work before. So that again, it irritates me, because one of the big things when I came into government was the lack of data in housing, and that's really surprising for such a critical area of people's lives.
So to what extent do the solutions to Jersey's housing challenges lie with the private sector? Are they empowered or constrained by current policies, in your view?
I think that's a really good question, and it's a really complicated question, because I think the dynamic is changing significantly. We've obviously got the new an update to the residential tenancy law, and that's been an ongoing burning decision, and that obviously is of great concern to a number of private sector landlords, given that the private sector rental market has grown so significantly. basically because of housing unaffordability. That's really what has driven that. But it's the unintended consequences. There are a lot of landlords who are fearful that ever-increasing amounts of red tape give them less and less flexibility. Now, you can argue and say, well, actually, it's a two-way street. You know, these are homes you're providing for people, therefore those people require protection. I think the problem always is we always run to legislation rather than good practice and those kind of things. So I think we need to find a balance between a relevant amount of red tape, legislation, and flexibility for landlords, and we need to find that line. And it's a really difficult one because there are always bad actors in these areas, but the vast majority of people are good actors. And I think, are we making laws for the tiny minority, or are we making inappropriate laws for the majority?
Finally, if you could make one key change right now to make a difference, what would it be?
There is no single silver bullet, and it's very holistic in its nature. So, you know, things like, well, the areas which really sort of anger me a bit are areas which are left to rot, which are within government, and it's those kind of, vacant homes is maybe a classic example of that. It's the time it takes. So we talk about the planning. Planning has improved in terms of their time frame and turning things around. So that's a good sign. We've got a huge number of greenfield sites out there which are totally underdeveloped, and so again, the price at which some of those fields, a lot of people felt they got a sort of postcode lottery win when their field became eligible for housing. And I think we didn't really think about that too hard, and I think we need to spend a bit more time thinking about that area. Where's the gain, the planning gain in that area? But none of these things happen overnight, you know. But I come back to the word holistic. I think it's about, you know, the drainage system. That became very apparent as an issue for us. You know, are we investing in sufficiently? So to some extent, what it is, it's about educating the public into the wider issues. It's quite interesting. As I came into here, I bumped into a lady who's involved with homelessness, and you know, those issues and investing in there. So why do we have all these homeless people? Well, it's basically because they can't afford to get into a home or a stable area. So there are so many different balls in the air at any one time. And I think one of the things is we need to recognise that it's a dynamic market. So it's a dynamic environment, and that we should be able to adjust and adapt fairly, you know, nimbly. And I think that's the bit that, if I was saying people talk about a smaller government, I think we need a more nimble government, and I think that would resolve a lot of these issues.
Thanks for listening to this episode in our special housing series. If you'd like to hear more and put your own questions to the panel, join us live at the Palm d'Or Hotel at 5 p.m. on Wednesday 23rd of April for Housing Crisis Averted. Tickets are available now on Eventbrite, and AIM Plus subscribers can attend for free. We'd love to see you there.